listening to the Holy Bible 1-Year Challenge with Master Storyteller Michael Wood, featuring the easy-to-read version and used by permission from Bible League International. Enjoy the show!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 207. We're beginning the book of First Chronicles, and I will be giving a more detailed introduction at the beginning of this episode. But just a hint, if any of you out there are looking for a name for your son or daughter, then this episode is for you, because you're going to hear lots of names. And we're also continuing in the book of Romans. Paul wants most of all for all the people of Israel to be saved, and he's been talking to the Jews mostly as an audience, and he's quoting scriptures that they would be familiar with. He's even quoting Hosea, which we just did in the last few episodes. And he does a couple of quotes from Isaiah himself, and then, of course, a quote from God. So he's using scripture to continue arguing his point. What is that point? Well, he says it in Romans chapter 9, verse 32, where he says, "They failed because they tried to make themselves right by the things they did. They did not trust in God to make them right." So it's God's power that saves. There's no one who can obey the law so well and that they are so righteous that they can win favor with God. Nope. We need God's gift of grace and mercy. If you enjoy the show, visit me at patreon.com/storymaster. You'll find the link in the description box below. By contributing as little as $1 per month, you will enable me to continue this ministry, and you'll get cool rewards too. Together, we're going to get through the Bible in 1 year. Let's get started. First Chronicles, an introduction. The books of First and Second Chronicles retell the story of the Israelite kingdom. They include stories about Saul, David, Solomon, and the divided kingdom. Parts of these books are almost the same as parts of 1st and 2nd Samuel or 1st and 2nd Kings. But the purpose of 1st and 2nd Chronicles is very different. The purpose is to record memories of the past for people who did not know their own history. 1st Chronicles begins with a family history. It is a list of the Israelites' ancestors, beginning with Adam. The list is so complete that it takes 9 chapters. Many readers today skip over the family histories in the Bible, but these lists were very important for the ancient Jewish people. Their family history had been broken by long periods of captivity, and when they returned to Judah, they needed to rebuild their lives, as well as the temple. So the lists of names helped them remember who they were. Each name in a list was an important part of their family history, and it helped prove their claim to the land God had promised them. The lists were also a reminder that God had always been faithful to his people. After the family history, the book retells the story of King David. He captured Jerusalem, he organized priestly worship, he decided where the temple would be built, and he prepared to build it. The book praises David as God's chosen king for Israel. But it does not include all the stories about David that are in the other historical books. That is because the purpose is different. The Chronicles tried to explain why the temple was lost, and they rejoice at the opportunity to rebuild it. So First Chronicles tells the stories about David that show the importance of the temple. First Chronicles tries to explain why good or bad things happen to Israel. It has to do with Israel's being faithful or not. This idea begins like a small stream in First Chronicles. Then in Second Chronicles, it becomes a flood. First of all, good things happened to Israel because God was faithful to keep his promises. Good things also happened when God's people were faithful to follow his commands. But when the people failed to obey God, things did not go well. For example, King Saul lost his power and died because he was not faithful to God. But God was faithful to take care of his people by choosing David to be king. In Chronicles, the lesson to be learned from the history of God's people is the need to be faithful. First Chronicles chapter 1. Family history from Adam to Noah. The first generations of people were Adam, Seth, Enosh, Kenan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, and Noah. The sons of Noah were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Japheth's descendants. Japheth's descendants were Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. Gomer's descendants were Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarmah. Jovan's descendants were Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Radanim. Ham's descendants. Ham's descendants were Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. Cush's descendants were Seba, Havilah, Sapta, Rama, and Sabteka. Rama's descendants were Sheba and Dedan. Nimrod, a descendant of Cush, grew up to be the strongest and bravest soldier in the world. Mizraim was the ancestor of the people of Lud, Enam, Lehab, Naphtah, Pathros, Kaslah, and Kaphtor. The Philistines came from Kaslah. Canaan was the father of Sidon. Sidon was his first child. Canaan was also the ancestor of the Hittites, Jebusites, Amorites, Girgashites, Hivites, Arkites, Sinites, Arvadites, Zemarites, and the people from Hamath. Shem's descendants. Shem's descendants were Elam, Ashur, Arphaxad, Lud, and Aram. Aram's descendants were Uz, Hul, Gether, and Meshech. Arphaxad was the father of Shelah. Shelah was the father of Eber. Eber had two sons. One son was named Peleg because the people on the earth were divided into different languages during his lifetime. Peleg's brother was named Joktan. Joktan was the ancestor of Almadad, Sheleph, Hazarmaveth, Jerah, Hadaram, Uzal, Diklah, Ebal, Abimiel, Sheba, Ophir, Havilah, and Jobab. All these men were Joktan's sons. Shem's descendants were Arphaxad, Shelah, Eber, Peleg, Reu, Serug, Nahor, Terah, and Abram. Abram is also called Abraham. Abraham's family. Abraham's sons were Isaac and Ishmael. These are their descendants. Ishmael's first son was Nebaioth. His other sons were Kedar, Adbeel, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Tema, Jetur, Naphish, and Kedemah. These were Ishmael's sons. Abraham also had sons by Keturah, his slave woman. They were Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Jokshan's sons were Sheba and Dedan. Midian's sons were Ephah, Epher, Hanok, Abida, and Eldah. These men were the descendants of Keturah. Isaac's descendants. Abraham was the father of Isaac. Isaac's sons were Esau and Israel. Esau's sons were Eliphaz, Reuel, Jeush, Jalem, and Korah. Eliphaz's sons were Taman, Omar, Zepho, Gatam, and Kenaz. Also, Eliphaz and Timnah had a son named Amalek. Reuel's sons were Nahath, Zerah, Shammah, and Misa. The Adamites. Seir's sons were Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, Anah, Dishan, Ezer, and Dishan. Lotan's sons were Hori and Homam. Lotan had a sister named Timnah. Shobal's sons were Alvan, Manahath, Abel, Shepho, and Onam. Zibeon's sons were Aya and Anah. Anah's son was Dishan. Dishan's sons were Hemdam, Ishban, Ithran, and Karan. Ezer's sons were Bilhan, Zavan, and Achan. Dishan's sons were Us and Aram. The kings of Edom. There were kings in Edom long before there were kings in Israel. These are the names of the kings of Edom. Bela was the son of Beor. The name of Bela's city was Dinhabah. When Bela died, Jobab, son of Zerah, became the new king. Jobab came from Bozrah. When Jobab died, Husham became the new king. Husham was from the country of the Temanites. When Husham died, Hadad, son of Behad, became the new king. Hadad defeated Midian in the country of Moab. Hadad's city was named Avid. When Hadad died, Samlah became the new king. Samlah was from Masrekah. When Shamlah died, Shaul became the new king. Shaul was from Rehoboth by the Euphrates River. When Shaul died, Baal-Hanan, son of Akbor, became the new king. When Baal-Hanan died, Hadad became the new king. Hadad's city was named Pau. Hadad's wife was named Mehetabel. Mehetabel was Matred's daughter. Matred was Meshab's daughter. Then Hadad died. The leaders of Edom were Timnah, Alva, Jetheth, Oholibamah, Elah, Kenan, Kenaz, Taman, Mibsar, Magdiel, and Iram. This is a list of the leaders of Edom. 2 Chronicles chapter 2. Israel's sons. Israel's sons were Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Dan, Joseph, Benjamin, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. Judah's sons. Judah's sons were Onan, and Shelah. Beshua from Canaan was their mother. The Lord killed the first son, because he saw that he was evil. Judah's daughter-in-law Tamar gave birth to Perez and Zerah, so Judah had 5 sons. Perez's sons were Hezron and Hamul. Zerah had 5 sons. They were Zimri, Ethan, Heman, Calcol, and Darda. Zimri's son was Carmi. Carmi's son was Akar. Akar was the man who brought many troubles to Israel. Akar kept the things he took in battle, but he was supposed to give them all to God. Ethan's son was Azariah. Hezron's sons were Jeremiel, Ram, and Caleb. Ram's descendants. Ram was Aminadab's father, and Aminadab was Nahshon's father. Nahshon was the leader of the people of Judah. Nahshon was Salmon's father. Salmon was Boaz's father. Boaz was Obed's father. Obed was Jesse's father. Jesse was Eliab's father. Eliab was Jesse's first son. Jesse's second son was Abinadab. His third son was Shemiah. Nethanel was Jesse's fourth son, and Jesse's fifth son was Radai. Ozem was Jesse's sixth son, and David was his seventh son. Their sisters were Zeruiah and Abigail. Zeruiah's 3 sons were Abishai, Joab, and Asahel. Abigail was Amasa's mother. Amasa's father was Jether. Jether was from the Ishmaelites. Romans chapter 9, verse 22 to chapter 10, verse 4. It is the same way with what God has done. He wanted to show his anger and to let people see his power. But he patiently endured those he was angry with, people who were ready to be destroyed. He waited with patience so that he could make known the riches of his glory to the people he has chosen to receive his mercy. God has already prepared them to share his divine greatness. We are those people, the ones God chose not only from the Jews, but also from those who are not Jews. As he says in the book of Hosea,
"The people who are not mine, I will say, they are my people. And the people I did not love, I will say, they are the people I love."
And where God said in the past, "You are not my people," there they will be called children of the living God.
And Isaiah cries out about Israel.
There are so many people of Israel. They are like the grains of sand by the sea, but only a few of them will be saved. Yes, the Lord will quickly finish what he said he would do on the earth.
It is just as Isaiah said.
If the Lord all-powerful had not allowed a few people to live, we would have been destroyed completely, like the wicked cities of Sodom and Gomorrah.
So what does all this mean? It means that people who are not Jews were made right with God because of their faith, even though they were not trying to make themselves right. And the people of Israel, who tried to make themselves right with God by following the law, did not succeed. They failed because they tried to make themselves right by the things they did. They did not trust in God to make them right. They stumbled over the stone that makes people fall. The scriptures talk about that stone.
"Look, I put in Zion a stone that will make people stumble. It is a rock that will make people fall.
But anyone who trusts in him will never be disappointed."
Brothers and sisters, what I want most is for all the people of Israel to be saved. That is my prayer to God. I could say this about them. They really try hard to follow God, but they don't know the right way. They did not know the way that God makes people right with Him, and they tried to make themselves right in their own way. So they did not accept God's way of making people right. The law ended when Christ completed its purpose. Now, everyone who believes in Him is made right with God. Psalm chapter 89, verses 14 to 18. Your kingdom is built on what is right and just. Love and faithfulness are servants before your throne. Lord, happy are those who have learned to shout your praise. They live in the light of your smile. Your name always makes them happy. They praise your goodness. You are their amazing strength. It is your encouragement that makes us strong. We have a king to be our shield because of the Lord, the Holy One of Israel. Thank you, everyone. That was day 207. Join us for day 208. We're continuing in the book of 1 Chronicles. You'll hear more details about Caleb's descendants, Jerahmeel's descendants, and other descendants of Caleb. Then you'll hear about David's sons, the king of Judah after David's time, and David's family after the Babylonian captivity, as well as other family groups of Judah. And in the book of Romans, Paul begins to explain the connection of Moses to the scriptures and the law, and reminds us that God has not forgotten his people. We hope you enjoyed today's verses. Be sure to leave us a positive review and to share this podcast with your friends and family. Please join us for the next episode as we experience the Bible in 1 year.
Did you know we offer online courses in creative writing, literature, and web design? Visit us at storymaster.online to learn more.